We weren't the first ones with that idea, but we were the ones that perfected it, we believe. We feel like we have the best solution, and the market seems to be saying that's true. My name's Brad Knoth. I'm the General Manager of Operations here at Advantage Label and Packaging. Started the company in 1996, started with a little Mark Andy 830. So we originally were focused on automotive. We were really good at providing the customer with blank labels, selling the ribbons, the software, and supporting that so that they would buy the blanks, and that went really well. We got into CMYK printing, process color, started to get into the food industry, general manufacturing, kind of a very diversified group of processors and manufacturers, which has been healthy for our business. There's no one segment or one customer that's more than, let's say, 7% of our business. That's been really healthy for us, so yeah. UFPI came to us with a unique proposition. They said, we don't know anything about what you're doing, but we know we want to be involved in what you do. We spoke, we explained the equipment we use, our processes, our software, our people, and after their investigation of other options, they said, we want you to be our flagship in the US for label printing. That was a big part of the appeal. We first looked and said, okay, are we interested in working with these people? What's the culture like? We worked really hard on our culture. You know, we've identified the core characteristics of our culture. Our people are dependable, they're positive, they're go-getters, they value the customer, and they have the heart of a servant. We saw those things in UFP and we said, hey, there's a cultural fit. This could go really well. And you're right, our cautious nature that has worked well for us has given us modest, healthy growth. Now it's like, well, what ideas do you have? Let's invest in those good ideas. Let's do something greater. Let's do more of what's working. And that's really been a unique situation where we're not feeling like we're just hanging around because we have to. We're actually like, wow, we are having our cake and eating it too. Now we get to have more fun and do greater things with a larger team nationally. We really are blessed with that. The people are number one. It's kind of cliche a bit, but seriously, if we don't have people on this great equipment using the best software, we can't take care of our customers. So we really focus on the people and the team aspect. I think we have a little bit different take. We, rather than being just a pure label converter, really getting wrapped up in the technology and the specs, we look at it more like, hey, we provide solutions. We provide labels and label-related solutions, and we work really hard to understand what does the customer expect? What are you trying to accomplish? We're not going to try to educate us on our technology, but we're going to listen to what you expect. We're going to tell you what you can expect from us. We're going to add a bunch of additional service, support, and advice that makes us the natural choice for the labels. It's always going to be solution-based. We're not the guys that, hey, do you want a quote on these labels? If it's high volume and they're just looking for a quote from many suppliers, we don't run toward those. There's a lot of labels used in the growing industry. That's been one of the runways that we're running on, and that we've become a leader in that area. And we've put together a solution to replace plastic stakes that typically go in the plants and to put a label on the side of a container. So we weren't the first ones with that idea, but we were the ones that perfected it, we believe. We feel like we have the best solution, and the market seems to be saying that's true. We're putting these things all over the US. We did have a lot of confidence in it, and we have an industry expert that actually came out of that industry 18 years ago, and we came up with the line boss, and we registered the trademark, and it's really taken off. Our belief was if we want to succeed and be the best, we need the best information and we need to be efficient. So we came from a bunch of different systems kind of put together like Frankenstein. We took a roll of paper and basically put screenshots of everything we did, and we actually shocked ourselves. We looked at this massive roll and said, do we really do that to make a label? And it was kind of a wake-up call, like, we got to get this right. That can be very time-consuming and inefficient. So over time, it became more complex, and we had to keep changing the software. And one company supporting software, it just breaks down. It becomes this monster that you have to keep feeding and feeding it more and more time and resources. And there came a point where we said, you know what? It would be comfortable to stay on this. We need to do something different. Absolutely, that's a good way to put it. And it's really, it's one of those things that keep you up at night because you think of all the ways it could get screwed up, and there's like one way to get it right. Actually, that concern led to, well, where do you go with that? It's like, if we're gonna talk to others, this is gonna be the first time we've ever had this conversation, and we're gonna be talking to people that are professional at having this conversation. We gotta get it right. So we actually engaged with an outside consultant that was very familiar with ERPs, implementing, and he was our coach to go through the evaluation process. Well, I guess it was a caution flag because at that point in time, I might have this wrong, maybe there were 6 US customers. There was a bunch of customers in Europe, and some of the language even in the software was just unfamiliar to us, and we certainly didn't want to go back into something like, well, is this going to be supported? We are coming off something that's not supported. So it was a concern, but you know, we can talk about how they ended up being the winner, but they had a compelling case. Our guide, our coach on doing this, he said, I want everybody that uses the software right now, I want them to write down their day in the life. I want them to write down everything they do, create a checklist, and then we're gonna evaluate. We ended up with looking at 4 companies. All 4 companies are gonna get that list, and we're gonna have an initial meeting on site, and then there's gonna be the top 2 will come on site and do a full day presentation. And the whole thing was based on day in the life and show me, not can you do it. A yes or no wasn't good enough. And we did that. We narrowed it down. You know, CERM and the other big giant software company for our industry at the time, they came in for the 2-day demo. We had one individual came in from CERM and actually took us from tip to tail, all the way through everything in a logical manner in 1 day. Like, wow. The other company, they had their own version of Frankenstein software. They had the same color logo on everything, but it was all these different software. So they showed up literally with 4 people, and they couldn't get through the explanation in 1 day. No one person knew the whole thing, and it. The bottom line was, you know, we went with CERM, and there's a number of other elements we've uncovered that we love about it, but that was the process. We said, we're gonna be a power user. We're gonna be using as many features as we can. We're gonna be using the most of CERM in the US. We want to be their flagship. I guess we like to be flagship, you know, because we think we're gonna collaborate better. So that's how we entered into it. We took the time to get trained up on it. And so we went all in. So one of the areas, we'll start with the manufacturing part of it, was the direct machine interface. So we have encoders on all of our equipment measuring exactly what occurs. So there's what you expect to occur, your standard cost, but is that real? So with the DMI on there, we actually in CERM have a report that if there's more than a 10% variance between what we expected and what actually occurred, that outputs a report, and our production operations manager can review why. Is it something we did wrong and it was an anomaly? Was it, no, we did everything right, our cost factors are off, we know what to change. So the business we have is good business. The business we're quoting, we know we're quoting it with a real cost. We don't pretend costs don't exist. CERM's very specific to our industry and works very well. So we get all that great information. The third thing is pricing models. In the past, customer says, hey, can you quote me this? You give them a quote for a number of quantities they identified. You have to be way more sophisticated nowadays, and that's actually helped us gain a lot of business because we go in with a price sheet, which you tell me how many SKUs you're gonna run and at what quantities you wanna see. We can make that as big as you want it to be, and you can pick what's gonna work for you for that order. You need 13 items at 150,000 total quantity, there's your price. We don't need to go back and forth. Hey, you quoted 5 and 10, can you quote me 7.5 thousand? We kind of skip that part. That pricing model and the way that works is the crossover points for all the different technologies we can use. Because most of our labels we can make using several routes through the company, not even several presses, but that includes where you're gonna finish it. And we can look at those crossovers and have the optimal production route for a particular quantity. The ability to then look at that information in Microsoft Power BI, that's really the icing on the cake. Making good decisions, seeing where you're winning, what's working, what's not working. We couldn't really do that without BI. We have immediate visibility to optimization of each piece of equipment on the floor. There's certain pieces of equipment or certain processes or software where you get to the point you look at the pros and cons and the initial investment and the payoff, and it gets to the point where it's like, that's clearly a hands down win, it's the best thing, and maybe we move on at that point. So I don't have that document. I don't have that in hand to tell you what that ROI was. It was just clearly our best option. And sometimes we say, like, I don't need more information that's not going to help me make a decision. If I already have the info I need to make the decision, then we're good. And we do that with our jobs. And I think that's what we did on the ROI and the software. It was clearly the leader and the best option. So absolutely, yeah, wouldn't change it. Very thankful actually for the team. You do your best to evaluate things on the front end and to have that expectations handshake, like, here's what we're expecting, what can we expect from you? That's step one. Step two is like, does that actually play out? And it has. So, I mean, that's frankly why we're willing to talk about it, because, they've earned that.